Hello, AP Psychology class. I'm coming to you today with our third installment on cognition or thinking. We've talked first of all about concepts and how we use concepts to think, and then we talked about problem solving, and now we're taking a look at how we make decisions and form judgments. We're going to be looking at 5 concepts and potential errors. The first one is really an important one. This is called confirmation bias. Confirmation bias is when we search for information that confirms our preconceptions about something. So let's say that you take a class, maybe this class even, and you've heard good things about it, and so you're really excited about it, and you come into that class with a notion that this is going to be a great class. Then you're going to look for information that's going to confirm that notion. There was a great study done some years ago, and students were randomly chosen from a school, and the teacher was told that these couple students are exceptionally good students. And what ended up happening was those teachers gave those students more attention, gave them more feedback on their work, and in the end, those students started doing better just because their teachers believed that they were actually higher achieving students. So the confirmation bias had that power even to shape the behavior of the teachers. Now, that was in a positive way, but sometimes we make mistakes with confirmation bias. For example, when a person has caught a criminal, like we saw in the video we watched last week, there's a tendency for the detective to ignore any contrary evidence. They have made their decision about who they believed committed the crime, and they're going to continue to believe that. Anti-vaccinations or anti-vaxxers is another good example of confirmation bias. Many people who are anti-vaxxers have taken to heart study that is filled with errors that linked autism to vaccines. Now, the use of vaccinations and the cases of reported autism were correlated. They are positively correlated, but there is no causal factor between vaccinations and autism, as many further studies have shown. Yet, once you have made the commitment to anti-vaccinations, you're going to continue to believe that, and you are going to perhaps even ignore contrary evidence. So we call that belief perseverance. What I'm seeing right now in our country is a tremendous polarity between liberals and conservatives. So liberals might have, on the one hand, ideas about conservatives, and they look for evidence that simply confirms those ideas. And the same way with conservatives. They're going to look at liberals and find evidence that confirms their belief. They're not going to even look at contrary evidence. Now, sometimes we are faced with contrary evidence and we experience something called cognitive dissonance. So I'm going to give you an example of this that maybe some of you can relate to. I had a student my second year of teaching who was voted most respected student at the school, and he was just a very kind person, and he had told me that he was going to join or rush for a fraternity at a local university. And I just happen to know from my own experiences and that of my own children that that particular fraternity did not have a very good reputation, especially in regards to its treatment of women. And so I was really surprised when he told me he was going to join this fraternity. So when he got to the fraternity, here's what happened. He realized that the actions of this fraternity did not match his beliefs about the fraternity. So he could have continued to believe that it was a good place for him and ignore the actions that he found objectionable, or he could change his own action. What he did do was he changed his own action and he left the fraternity after one semester. So the reason why we have belief perseverance is to help ease that cognitive dissonance. But sometimes by ignoring the contrary evidence. But sometimes we get to a point where we have to take an action. So for those of you who know music, you might recognize this as a chord that would be dissonant. It's a suspended chord. And when we hear that, even if we're not musical, we know that that doesn't sound right. We don't want to end a piece on a dissonant chord, and we'd want to change that F to an E and we have a C major chord. And that's going to help relieve the dissonance that we hear. So remember these three terms: confirmation bias, belief perseverance, and cognitive dissonance, and see if you can come up with your own examples. The next concept is overconfidence. We tend to overestimate the accuracy of our own knowledge and judgments. We do this all the time. And it's believed to actually have a hereditary or an evolutionary purpose by evolutionary psychologists, in that in order to proceed forward, we need to be confident in our judgments. If we've decided, for example, we're going to attend the University of Wisconsin-Madison, not only will we have confirmation bias, but we are going to be very confident that this is a wonderful school and it's the best place that we should be. Some classic examples from history that show overconfidence was Hitler's planned invasion of Russia in Operation Barbarossa. Just like Napoleon, a century before him, he far underestimated the severity of the Russian winter and the stamina of the Russian people in withstanding the invasion of the Nazi military. And indeed, Hitler lost that forward motion. The same thing happened with Johnson in Vietnam. He believed that, because of the Truman Doctrine and the success in Korea, and at least keeping South Korea at the 30th parallel, that they could take over and keep communism out of Vietnam, but again, far underestimated the resolve of the troops, of the communist-backed troops of Vietnam. Another concept when it comes to decision making is something we call framing. So the way an issue is presented or the context of it affects our judgments. So think about buying meat at a store. You're not going to buy a package that says this is 25% fat, because that's just going to be gross, right? You're going to be like, ooh, gross, who wants that? The packages are going to instead say 75% lean. If you come in on a test day and I say, wow, you guys, watch out for this test, it's a killer, that's not going to make you feel very good about the test. So you're going to right away maybe get nervous about the test. Elizabeth Loftus, the memory researcher that we looked at last time, she did a study, a very easy study actually. She just showed about a 20-second video of a car crash. She changed one word in the question for the participants in the study, and you can see in the graph, she asked merely how many miles were the cars going when they blank into each other: smashed, collided, bumped, hit, or contacted. And as you can see, the responses varied purely based on the word that was used in the question. So the next time someone says to you something, think about how they're framing it. We're going to have a great day today, okay? I'm trying to frame this whole coronavirus distance learning. It's going to be great. Instead of, like, wow, this really is terrible. I wish I wasn't here every day, okay? I want to frame it in a positive way. All right. Now, this is Steve. Take a look at Steve. It's my husband's name, by the way. Imagine you just met a man named Steve. Steve is very shy and withdrawn, invariably helpful, but with little interest in people or in the world of reality. A meek and tidy soul, he has a need for order and structure and a passion for detail. Is Steve more likely to be a librarian or salesperson? Now, when I do this in my class, Steve is almost always more likely to be a librarian, or so the class thinks. But in reality, the number of librarians in the United States is very, very small compared to the number of salespeople. And from pure statistical probabilities, Steve is going to be a salesperson. He might not be very good at it, but he's going to be a salesperson and not a librarian. This is called a representative heuristic. We might incorrectly judge a situation or a person based on a pattern of previous experiences or beliefs. We're coming back to that idea of schema again. one way to think about representative heuristics are that they are stereotypes. And as this picture says, be mindful about stereotypes. Only one of them is a convicted felon. That is Martha Stewart. That is a felon, not Snoop Dogg. So sometimes we use representative heuristics when we're in a situation to make a quick decision, perhaps a situation of danger where we need to make a quick decision. But be really careful about using representative heuristics when making judgments about people. I am a woman. I have I wear dresses most of the time. I have a chainsaw. I use it. I have a tractor. I use it. I think a lot of people don't think that about that when they see me. I think for you guys as teenagers, when you go into a store, maybe someone follows you around because they don't trust you, because they've had experiences with teens that have shoplifted. We can all fall prey to being stereotyped in some way because of a representative heuristic, and we need to be careful about not using stereotypes on other people. One of the ones that I bring up in class is all EHS kids are the same, right? Oh, wait a second. You're not. You're not all the same. The final one is the availability heuristic. This one is definitely in the news right now. Coronavirus, pictures of the virus, talking about the virus every single day on the news. It is likely, when we think about the likelihood of us being impacted by the coronavirus, that because of the saturation of media, that we think, wow, like everyone's going to get this. This is just terrible. And it is. I'm not going to say it's not a terrible thing. It is a terrible thing. And there have been some really incredible tragedies from this. But over the years of my life, there have been a number of times where the danger of something has been so inundated us that we tend to think something is maybe more dangerous than it actually is to us personally. I'm just going to show you some other examples from previous years. So last year, it was all about the Boeing 737 MAX. There had been 2 airplane accidents that involved the Boeing 737 MAX. And you know what? I didn't want to go on a Boeing 737. I was looking at my flights. Am I going to die if I go on a Boeing 737? The year before that, we've got fire. There were fires raging across California. They were terrible. But what is the mortality rate from a fire? 9.7 per million. Drowning, 1,300 per million. But we were hearing a lot more a few years ago about fires than we were about drowning, just because they're more notable. Before that, it was the Zika virus, and everyone was concerned about traveling to Central or South America or Brazil. In fact, Brazil said you can't have babies for the next 9 months because it causes not hydroencephaly. It causes anencephaly, a smaller brain. And so we were all concerned about that. Now, again, going back to our current crisis of the coronavirus, I do not believe in any way that this is something to be taken lightly. However, I think that we need to be careful to not let ourselves become overwhelmed and over-immersed by media that is going to cause us to have to live in fear. So that's the availability heuristic, and it can come down to a personal level too. If you, for example, have known a number of people that have suffered from cancer, for example, you're going to think, well, I'm just destined to have cancer. And, you just don't know. You don't know what your statistics are about that. Maybe you do if you have some kind of genetic testing information, but otherwise, we just don't know. So take care, stay well, stay socially distanced, but remember and practice these 5 terms and think about them as you go through life, because we are often impacted by all of them, and we want to make sure that we're making decisions based on the best knowledge and research that we can find. Have a great day. Thank you.